Let's explore Painter's newest category of brushes, flow, gravity, and spring. As usual, you can get an idea of what the stroke might look like by looking down at the stroke preview at the bottom of the brush selector. But it's way more interesting and fun to actually make some strokes on a blank canvas. I have a white canvas as well as a black one because some of the items in this category have a glow component, which looks better on a black or dark background. Now, I have organized my panels to show the general controls for all of the particles brushes, as well as the specific ones for flow, gravity, and spring. We have a particles custom palette that has a few of each of the special subcategories. Let's just begin. With the flow fur, which is not a glow brush, I'll work on the blank white canvas and I'll choose a brownish orange and I make a stroke across the canvas. Notice the dancing particles. And we're seeing those because I have the enhanced brush ghost enabled in my preferences. That is going to slow the brushes down, and so if you want to speed up, just choose brush ghost or the other choices. But let's stick with enhanced brush ghost so that you can see what these particles actually are doing in each case. Let's take a look at the flow water effect. I'll change to blue, and this time I'll drag down the canvas. We have a little bit of color variability. As you can see here, there is a saturation and value variability built in, which of course you can change if you wish. Let's see what happens if we change the count on this item. You can see with the tooltip that is displayed when you hover over that slider, this sets the number of particles and particle paths in a brush stroke. So with a higher count, let's see what happens. This is a denser stroke. So now if we have a lower count, our flow water effect is very sparse. I'm going to take you to Flow Map Dancer, which as you can see is a glow effect. So let's move this over and work on our black canvas with a bright gold color. And now if I simply drag my stylus down, I am seeing a very complex stroke. Let me get my flow particles here. It's the result of the particular flow map that has been active. And so this one is called Hot Lava, which I also have available in the custom palette, as well as Fine Dots. There's a whole library of these items. They look very much like paper textures, and they behave in a similar way to control the flow of particles. So with fine dots, I'll make a stroke, and we see that there is a very different effect, and you also see the particles dancing. Let me return now to the custom palette where we have a gravity bristle item, and this is not a glow brush, so I'll work on the white canvas. Let's work with pink. I'm just going to go to the gravity section here so I can keep an eye on these variables, which I may or may not change as I go. If I simply drag across my canvas with gravity bristle, this is what the default stroke looks like. But if I add some chaos, and there's two kinds of chaos, there's global and local chaos. Let's add some global chaos, and with the same stroke going across, you can see my cursor moving, but the stroke itself has a mind of its own. Let's add even more global chaos. I'll go up to 40%. And now when I drag across, this thing is just going all over the place. Let's return it to its default setting. Let's see what happens when we increase local chaos. There is a certain amount built in, but I'm going to go for more local chaos and 0 global chaos, but I'll switch colors also. And this time I'll go down. With local chaos, I'll make that a darker color. It appears that the bristles are spread apart. Let's reduce that and see if that holds true. So it would appear if we reduce that local chaos to very small amounts, then we have a very, very tight, controlled grouping of bristles. So this gives you some experience with chaos and how to control it. I'm going to go now to Gravity Deco Streamline, which is a glow brush. So I will move this over. I will delete the 2 strokes I did on the black canvas. Now with Gravity Deco Streamline, if I just make a straight stroke, horizontal or vertical, there's nothing very interesting going on there. But once I begin to make curved strokes, then I begin to see some color. Let's make that color stronger. Just create a few curved strokes here. Once again, I am going to explore chaos. If I add some global chaos to this, and let's make that a bright green, here's what happens. It moves around quite a bit, and there's some wonderful spread of pixels here. Let's see what happens when I reduce global chaos, or let it go back to the default, which is 0. And then put in some local chaos. Let's see what that does. And very similar to what we saw with the previous gravity bristle, we see a spread of the bristles themselves. Now let us look at a couple of the spring variants here. Spring Chain Smoky is not a glow brush, so I'm going to use my white canvas, clear it first, and let's make a blue color. If I just make a few swirly strokes, I'm looking at a chain effect here, or chain appearance, and that is shown if I go to my spring particles controls. I see that this is a chain of particles that whips around the brush path. It certainly did, and it does look smoky. If I wanted to show you spring concept creature, this is not a spring appearance, but this is a nucleus. And so change color, I'll show you that there appears to be a center nucleus and the particles have sprung out from that center. To show you spring silk ribbon, which is also a chain variant, this will give you an idea of what you can do if you change the opacity of either the path or the spring. I'm going to reduce the opacity of the path and take a good look at what the previous stroke was. We saw these very thin lines. Now with path opacity at 0, and I'll just make a different color here, let's see what happens. We do not see the line work of paths. Let me make sure that that is clear by eliminating what we had before. Here it is now with path opacity at 0. And now let us make the path opacity 100 by resetting it to the default. And now you will see that there are, in fact, these interior lines showing you the path. I will show you a couple of the experimental pieces that I have done. Let me just make the interface invisible, and I'll show you Spring Concept Creature. This was a piece that I did just with that variant, the Spring Concept Creature variant, and a variety of colors and chaos settings. Let's take a look now at Flow Map Dancer. Only done with the Flow Map Dancer variant and a couple of different flow maps. I'm sure you can recognize a couple of them from our demonstration. And finally, Gravity Deco Streamline has 2 or 3 colors and a variety of chaos settings. So go ahead and play with particles.